This property runs this community. A lot of people from this community work here. They're proud of this. This has got a lot of history here. And then when you think about the beauty with the hills, the mountains, the trees, the water.
One thing about this place is one of the words he kept saying, family. It's a place that when my family, everyone comes, they treat you like family. They treat you like you're one of their own. And it's, obviously when you look at the place, you look at the rooms, everything, it's like taking a step back in time. And I think that's an absolutely amazing place to be able to put your phone down and slow everything down. I mean, the world these days is so fast. Everything has to get done so quickly. And every time I've come here with my family at Greenbrier, it's like everything stops and it's slow motion. You actually get to enjoy life, enjoy your time with family.
Just this place feels like I'm a kid again. You get out here, you see nature, you see the trails, you see going on a hike. I grew up in Fresno. We go up to the mountains every once in a while, and that's just kind of what it feels like a little bit. Obviously, it's more forested here and whatnot, but the 58, I don't know how to explain it. Just kind of semi-blacked out, you can kind of say. It was one of those moments where the last 4 holes, I was obviously trying to win a tournament, but it started to rain, and I just kept focusing on my game. I didn't get outside of this bubble that I created with myself. I just wanted to focus on hitting the next best shot. And I think that's what really pushed me on to focusing on obviously winning the tournament, but to shoot in the 50s and then ultimately make the 40-footer on the last hole for 58. That was just the cherry on top. And what a special moment, a special place in my heart forever, and probably one of the most special moments in my entire life.
Yes, it's time to rise and grind right here on a beautiful Friday morning in the middle of August. Sirius XM channel 159. This is the early line. It's Donnie right side of the board. We have a present for you. Dubs Anderson joining us today. And if you feel like, hey, look at that, Dubs back on the network here having fun. You haven't seen anything yet. Dubs will be with us all football season long right here on the early line. Dubs, it feels good to have you back in the house here.
Happy Friday, my guy, Donnie, from the West Coast, Best Coast. It's a fantastic time in the sports world. Hopefully we can get the bettors a couple of bucks as we move into a loaded Friday afternoon. What a Thursday night it was, Donnie. I know you're flying high because the Eagles getting it done there for Thursday night football.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good time at this. Now, granted, it is preseason football, but anytime the scoreboard is up there, Dubs, you always want to take down those wins here. And over the next 3 hours, we got a lot of topics to go over. WNBA, NFL action, golf, who Dubs, that's right up his alley. Thank goodness we have an expert to talk about, to have some fun and set the stakes for some of the final golf tournaments that are coming up. But we do have to talk football here on a football Friday. And that was the Philadelphia Eagles last night, picking up the victory over the New England Patriots, 14-13. What did we get out of the game? Not that much here. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't play very many starters at all, just a few on defense, but still able to win. Solid performances by the backup quarterbacks. What do we anticipate over the Patriots for the final parts of these preseason games? How many wins will they get in the regular season? But Dubs, it's just good. A Thursday night primetime football game to sink your teeth into. We're getting ready for week number 1.
Yeah, this was just the appetizer, Donnie, but good job there for the Eagles. They rallied to get it done late in the fourth there, and for the Pats, a little underwhelming from what we saw out of Jacoby Brissett there. Drake May, I wouldn't say he was a standout, but he showed a bit of promise there. So for the Pats fans, something to build off going through the preseason, and for the Eagles, they found a way. We got to see a bit of Tanner McKee and Kenny Pickett out there in the mix as well. But 14-13 as a better. The only thing I can play with confidence in the preseason, Donnie, is another unders.
Exactly. That usually is the case here because you typically don't want to show a lot. And the Eagles, we're going to play some starters, Dubs, but always in the preseason, if there are some weather conditions, you never want to put your starters in harm. The Philadelphia Eagles decided game number 2 to sit their offensive starters once again. We'll see if they play at all in week number 3 before they head down to Brazil to take on the Green Bay Packers. We're keeping it all in Philadelphia in the 7-7 right now, Dubs. How about this? The Philadelphia Phillies have been struggling for the better parts of the last month. Struggles no more last night. You have your ace on the the mound, and Zach Wheeler, he was fantastic. The offense puts up 13 runs, a cycle. And you say to yourself, that cycle is probably coming from Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, maybe a Bryce Harper here. Not the case. Weston Wilson with a cycle yesterday for the Phillies. A much-needed, easy victory for those fighting Phils here, Dubs.
I was scratching my head, Donnie, saying, who is Weston Wilson, a 28-year-old rookie coming in here for the Phillies? He's had over 2,500 at-bats there in the minor leagues. And I tell you what, the Phillies absolutely needed a bit of this spark. So for a guy like Weston Wilson, who's probably trying to vie for a little postseason berth here, fantastic to see there. And maybe this is the momentum the Phillies need. We've seen the top of the standings. The Dodgers just taken that top spot in the National League there. So for Philadelphia, maybe a bit more firepower added to that lineup there, but a very special feat. The first rookie to get it done for the Phillies and going for the cycle there in Weston Wilson.
Yeah, Philly's been around a long time, too. That is a big occurrence. But also, the night before, that grand slam home run by Kyle Schwarber to sort of get that momentum back for the Phillies, carried over for day number 2. Aaron Nola takes them out. We'll preview that game a little bit later in the show. So the Philadelphia Phillies, finally, some good vibes. The Atlanta Braves, who did have some good vibes out in San Francisco, they got shut down yesterday, Dubs, 6-0. The San Francisco Giants, the victors there. You take a look at Webb, who we capped yesterday on the show. I thought he was the much better pitcher on the mound yesterday. He was fantastic. 7 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts, only 1 walk. And Max Fried, who wasn't terrible, Dubs, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. But if your offense is only going to get you 4 hits and score no runs, it's hard to win baseball games in the major leagues. But a nice win for the San Francisco Giants. Maybe they can climb back up in those wild card standings.
Yeah, very tough spot to score in up there at Oracle, one of the toughest ballparks in the majors. We didn't see any offense at all there from the Braves. You highlighted the standout for me. Big Logan Webb fans out 7 there going against the Braves. For Fried, he was solid. He got 5 Ks there himself. You prop bettors if you jumped in to get in the mix. But again, the San Francisco Giants, what are they? 36-27 at home. A very, very much needed win for them. To take a look at that series, they dropped the first 3 going against the Braves. They turn the table, right the ship, and pick up a much needed victory.
Keep it in Major League Baseball right here in the 7 in 7 on a football Friday morning right here on the SportsGrid Network. Check this out. The Oakland Athletics 7, the New York Mets 6. You say, okay, that makes some sense. The Oakland Athletics, a decent ball club as of late, beating the Mets in their own building to salvage a game. But how about this, Dubs? This was a 5-0 game. Not Oakland, 5-0 for the New York Mets, and they blew that game. Offense turned it on the 4th inning for the Oakland Athletics. 12 hits, 7 runs. They come away with a victory and stun the New York Mets up at Citi Field.
And they took a minute in doing it. I believe it was the longest game since we've had the pitch clock coming into the mix there. So for the Mets, who got off to a commanding start in this one, not a good sign at all. And Donnie, I've got a betting black book. There's certain teams that I just won't go near, and it's the Oakland A's, the Oakland Athletics. They're not going to make a push towards October baseball, but what they have been doing over the last month is cashing bettors, a lot of tickets, and a lot of plus money. So this is truly the one that got away, and a little concerning for the Mets to let a team like the A's get back into this one and ultimately get it done in long fashion. So the A's 7-6 over the Mets in New York. Didn't see this one coming.
No, certainly. And also, usually it's the guy, if you like an RBI prop or maybe a basis prop, it's Brent Rooker. He's on the paternity list, and they still were able to plate 7 runs yesterday in a comeback victory over the Mets, so pretty impressive there. I'll tell you what's not so impressive. A good Milwaukee Brewers team losing their best player for the final parts of the season. The Brewers' Christian Yelich to have season-ending back surgery. A devastating blow, Dubsy, to that Milwaukee Brewers lineup.
Yeah, again, that news coming across there. Season-ending back surgery. I mean, this guy's been on an absolute tear for the National League. You look at the batting average, on-base percentage, some of the best in the business. So this is a massive loss for the Brewers. At 32 years of age, it doesn't get easy coming back from an injury like this one. But for Christian Yelich, certainly we'll go through the proper means there. But for the Brewers, not good news at all there, especially if you had a couple of futures tickets.
Yeah, it's a tough scene, too, because the Brewers, I like that offense, and I like it even more, obviously, with Christian Yelich. And it wasn't one of those seasons where it's like, okay, it's going to be a throwaway. You have a massive lead in the NL Central. You're going to win that division, which means when you enter into the playoffs, you're going to have home field advantage. It's just a bad omen now that you're not going to have your best player in the lineup when it means most here. Tough blow there for Yelich, but you saw him yesterday put out on Instagram. You know, he's going to be back better than ever next year. He has the whole offseason to get ready. Should be ready for spring training. We'll see how that plans out. Russell Wilson, how about this? Guess who's back? Russ is back, making his preseason debut this weekend against the Buffalo Bills in an effort, Dubsy, so he can secure that starting job over Justin Fields. How are we feeling about the season debut, or should I say preseason debut, of old Russell Wilson?
Can we really call him Dangerous? Is Dangerous getting set to cook or to sizzle? I don't know about this one, Donnie. You've got a couple of hours to try and sway me as we get set for more preseason football. For Russell Wilson, he needs the reps out there, but I think what we saw last year was a sign of the times. He's just missing that spark. He's getting a little slower when he tries to get out of the pocket. It's not happening, but if anyone can turn it around, it's going to be Steeler Nation for Pittsburgh. We know how good Mike Tomlin is as a head coach, but hey, he's got Justin Fields over the shoulder. Maybe he's starting to feel a bit more pressure as we get set for week 1 in the regular season.
My Twitter account over the years has been littered with absolute joy watching Russell Wilson, calling him worth his weight in gold. He should be worth $350 million a year because of how much he meant to the Seattle Seahawks. Didn't work out in his favor, obviously, in Denver. Now in Pittsburgh, trying to hold that starting position down. And a good preseason game certainly will go a long way for him being the game 1 starter. And Mike Tomlin anoints him as the franchise quarterback. The WNBA played last night. Welcome back. And if you were a favorite bettor, Dubs, you were cashing in tickets. The Mercury, 85-65 over the Sky. The Mystics losing to the Lynx, 79-68 in the third game last night. An absolute blowout, no doubt about her, out in Los Angeles as the Liberty go East Coast to West Coast with a 103-68 victory. Absolute favorites all over the board last night. We got 3 hours today. It's Dubs, it's Donnie, it's a Friday morning, it's the SportsGrid Network. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We're talking football next, right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The fastest to 300, only 955 career games for Aaron Judge.
You're just worried about injuries, let's just be honest. Very few comparative players to Judge's height, his weight, his body mass. Very few of those guys, Ben, are playing 17 years and such in Major League Baseball.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number 1 in full effect right here on the Early Line on a Friday morning. A lot to get to today, and certainly Football Fridays. We talk about like today, This weekend, Dubs, we don't have any live, real action on the football field. And they say, hold on. You got a whole slate of week number 2 in preseason football action. Yes, we will be watching, but next weekend, college football week 0 starts, and how much fun are we going to have? But before we get to the real games here, we got to cover some of these preseason games. And also, if it's just a standalone Thursday night game in Foxborough, Massachusetts, the Philadelphia Eagles held off the New England Patriots 14-13. And if you are a handicapper out there, which many of you are, you were looking at the game going, that's interesting. 3 points, 3.5 points here as a favorite to the New England Patriots at game time. That only told us one thing, Dubs. That means the Philadelphia Eagles, at least on offense, were not going to play their starters, and the Patriots were. And for a long portion of this game, if you were backing the Patriots, you had the lead and the cover until late. Tanner McKee, 15 of 19 for the Philadelphia Eagles, 140 yards, no interceptions, no touchdown, but a passer rating of 97. I was pretty impressed. We'll start here. Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett, high completion percentage rating here. The Philadelphia Eagles pull out that victory. What did you see out of the quarterbacks who maybe down the stretch, if they needed to fill in, Dubsy, maybe they can do something out there?
Yeah, I thought it was solid play, and it tells us that, it's obviously a competitive quarterback's room. Obviously, Jalen Hurts wasn't in the mix there, but from Tanner McKee, very efficient with that passing. Kenny Pickett, I think he's always trying to make the most of every opportunity that he's seen, get that playing time. So for the Eagles, you've got to like what they did show, a bit of character, a bit of moxie. I know it's only the preseason, but showed enough grit to sort of hold on and get the chocolates. If you saw this score, 14-13, you would say this is a fantastic ball game. It wasn't, though. It was an absolute snoozer for me. But yes, I guess that is one of the shining lights that we can take away. There wasn't a lot in terms of rushing there on the ground for the Eagles. Receiving, we got to see a couple of young guys getting in the mix there. Good spread across the park. But 14-13, the Eagles get it done on that side of the ball. Tanner McKee was probably the shining light. And then on the other side there for the Pats, Drake May, I thought he looked a lot more, I guess, showed a bit more promise than Jacoby Brissett. For Jacoby Brissett, Donnie, this is the preseason. This is your one chance to get out there and show us what we haven't seen before. But it looked like the same old Jacoby Brissett. He was struggling to even get it past 10 yards down the field there. So I think if anyone got the edge, it was Drake May coming in for the Pats.
And by the way, you take a look at the Patriots and their outlook here, Dubs, for the season. It's not very high. And quite frankly, at the FanDuel Sportsbook, they're predicted to be dead last in the NFL record-wise at like a 3-1 price, which is crazy. Their win total under Tom Brady and Bill Belichick usually hovering 10.5, 11.5 games on a year-to-year basis. They're now sitting at that 4.5 range. And if you are Jacoby Brissett, you actually had a decent drive to start the ball game, but you can't make errors. And first of all, you're playing against a second-team defense primarily. You get down in the red zone, you throw that terrible interception, which Avonte Maddox returned back to the 50-yard line for the Philadelphia Eagles, and right away the Boo Birds come out in New England. Now, the question is going to be, when do you make that move to Drake May? The one thing that we can say, 6 of 11 for 47 yards, not all that impressive, we understand. But he is very mobile, and you saw that on his touchdown run earlier in the game to give the lead to the Patriots there, with they had that 10-3 lead at the half. Let me ask you this question. If you're the New England Patriots and Gerard Mayo, are you starting Jacoby Brissett to start the season to save Drake May because you don't think they're going to be a good football team? Or would you just start Drake May right at the gate and say, look, you're a top first-round pick here. You got to play and get your feet wet right away?
Yeah, it's a really tough one, Donnie, because you look at it and say, well, you don't want to set this kid up for failure. We've seen many young quarterbacks come into the league with so much promise, and they just don't have the weapons or the tools that a Caleb Williams is probably going to get with the Chicago Bears. So I do think it's probably in the best interest for the Patriots to maybe just let Drake May get a couple of, backup reps, if you will, first 4 weeks, get Brissett in the mix there. We know what we're going to get. If the Pats can somehow scrap a couple of wins, and that is going to be their DNA coming into a new year. We know they haven't got the weapons. We know there's nothing in terms of the offensive side of ball. But do you look towards put that pressure on Drake May from week 1 to see if he's got that juice? I'd probably rather go towards the previous there, Donnie. I'd say let's hold off on Drake May, let him really get up to speed, get his head around all these proper schemes in the pro ranks. Week 5, week 6, after the Pats have probably gone 0-5, maybe 1-5, that's when we bring this young kid in, because I just don't think it's a recipe for success. And this is a kid, you don't need him this year, you need him for the next decade, so let's do it the right way.
Yeah, David Carr, brother to Derek Carr for the Houston Texans, maybe about 20, 25 years ago, got drafted to them to be their franchise guy, started him right away. That team wasn't ready to play, and he got shell-shocked right off the bat. It's something you want to try to avoid, and as Dubs pointed out, that is a tough opening schedule for the New England Patriots. If we are looking at the quarterback play yesterday, Tanner McKee, Kenny Pickett, Will Grier were for the Philadelphia Eagles quarterbacks. Obviously, no Jalen Hurts. They weren't playing starters. Zappe, Milton, and Brissett for the New England Patriots. I'll tell you what was interesting about this game is Will Grier got in 3 of 5 passing 35 yards, but when they wanted to try to win the football game, they went back to Tanner McKee. If you take a look at the New England Patriots, they had Joe Milton in there who went 2 of 7 for 20 yards, took a couple sacks. But when they wanted to actually win the game, they went to Bailey Zappe, who had a lot of starts last year for the New England Patriots. So some interesting things, bringing quarterbacks to close the game as opposed to the extremely young guys or inefficiency here. Bailey Zappe actually was moving the Patriots, Dubs, down the field before that bad snap fumble to end the game where the Eagles recovered and took it away. This is going to be a long season for the New England Patriots. Let me ask you this quick question here. Do you agree with the Philadelphia Eagles? Let's just say game 1, game 2, and game 3 of the preseason, they don't play any starters on offense? How about that scenario?
But put them in cotton wool, Donnie. They're trying to save the big fellas there for week 1. I believe it was it McVay and the Rams. They sort of came up with this blueprint going back a couple of years. Yeah. We're going to rest all the starters and save them for the primetime action there. Look, is it reps? Is it going to be rust? I'd like to see him out there in the mix, but what are we really getting after when you're going against a side like we saw there last night? So for the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a lot of pressure on Nick Sirianni. I mean, they were calling for his head on the old chopping block, Donnie, and here they are, one of the shortest prices at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So look, Nick Sirianni, the Eagles, they're going to figure it out. You've got to be very, very bullish. I mean, once we get to see the likes of Saquon Barkley now leading that backfield, I would argue probably the best 1-2 punch in wide receivers, and I'm still buying in on Jalen Hurts. I know there's a bit of smoke there between him and Sirianni. They'll figure it out.
I think they will as well. And also keep in mind, if the Eagles' offense was struggling during training camp, Dubs, they probably would be out there in games 1, 2, and 3. But from all intents and purposes, behind the scenes, the beat writers, the Eagles' offense looks absolutely fantastic. And why not? Good offensive line, good tight end, great wideouts, great running back, a quarterback looking to bounce back from last year, and finally is healthy with that knee. Sky's the limit for the Eagles. We'll see what happens down in Brazil. More NFL talk next on a Football Friday right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York G has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The fastest to 300, only 955 career games for Aaron Judge.
You're just worried about injuries. Let's just be honest. Very few comparative players to Judge's height, his weight, his body mass. Very few of those guys, Ben, are playing 17 years in such in Major League Baseball.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
It's Stubbs and Donnie on a Friday morning right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM Channel 159, and ready to go and ready to have some fun. Hour number one rolling along, and also as we get closer to the regular season, additions to football teams, Dubs, are still happening out here. And a big name has finally moved to the Atlanta Falcons. You say, hold on. We already heard, Donnie, about Matthew Judon coming down from the New England Patriots, the Atlanta Falcons, to bolster that pass rush. But how about this? Tom Pelissero reports the Falcons aren't done working on the defense. Two-time Pro Bowl safety Justin Simmons is signing with the Atlanta Falcons on a one-year, $8 million deal. How about that? So a good safety still out on the market goes to Atlanta. You're adding pieces here to that defense. I think, Dubs, they're the best team in the NFC South. They might have the best safety tandem now in the NFL already, with Pro Bowler Jesse Bates waiting down there in Atlanta for Simmons to arrive. What are we thinking about this? Atlanta on the move lately here.
They've got to be the trendiest team in the offseason. They've got a lot of young players in the mix there as well. But this is massive. For the 30-year-old Simmons, I mean, he's got an NFL best 30 interceptions going back there to 2016. Obviously, the Broncos were under a bit of pressure there. So for Simmons, the door opens wide up to come in to a team in the Falcons who are absolutely putting all the right pieces in play to make a fair income tilt at the NFC South there. So for the Falcons, they've got a big game coming up tomorrow. But this is a fantastic addition. And now suddenly both sides of the ball looking a lot scarier in the ATL.
Yeah, I like that move a lot. Now, the only interesting part is there's a reason, Dubs, why some of these guys that we think are great football players are still out on the open market on August 15th and were snapped up in the first day or two of free agency. Was it too much money he wanted? Is he like somewhat maybe not so great in the locker room? But the one thing you do know, Justin Simmons healthy on the football field makes your defense better, and that's just what Atlanta did yesterday. Very intriguing, and also keep in mind, Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix look good in preseason so far. The things are on the upswing in Atlanta in the division, I think, is up for grabs. And for me, I was even saying before any of these defensive moves, Dubs, I think the Atlanta Falcons are the best team in the NFC South. Now they just have to prove it on the field and knock off the team that beat them last year in order to win that division. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If we keep moving with NFL thoughts, the Philadelphia Eagles used to be coached by Andy Reid. There used to be, Dubs, 4 preseason games. Big Red would get his guys a couple reps maybe in game number 1, play a quarter in game number 2, play the half in game number 3, sit it out game number 4. Now we only have 3 games here, but also Patrick Mahomes is going to play, and the plan is for him to play at least a first half in game number 2. I like these moves because the players want to play. It's football. You want to handle your business. You always get nervous with having superstar talent in a preseason game. I understand it, but I can't get upset with the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to play Patrick Mahomes. If Andy Reid says it's okay, Dubs, it's okay with me too.
And obviously, Patty Mahomes wants to be out there. He's such a dog. He's so competitive. So just getting those juices flowing again, I think it's fantastic. The Chiefs will take on the Lions. We've seen that number smashed down now. So the Chiefs laying 7 at home, 38.5. I think it's great. Patrick Mahomes, he's a gamer, and this is what makes him world class. And I think the play that we saw from this star quarterback last year excused maybe a couple of weaknesses that the Kansas City Chiefs had going through the regular season. They figured out a way going into the posts, and now they're in search of that three-peat. So I think this is great for the Chiefs. It's great for Patty Mahomes trying to get that rust off. For us as bettors, hopefully they can put up a couple of points, but it wasn't the first half last year. It was the second half struggles that we saw from Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see how that's going to look coming in for a new year.
I don't know how the Kansas City Chiefs won the championship last year, Dubs. That was the year you were supposed to beat them, seemingly with no wide receivers going on. After beating the Miami Dolphins in that wild card round, you went on the road, handled the Buffalo Bills. You go on the road once again, and you beat the Baltimore Ravens. Then you go to the Super Bowl and handle the San Francisco 49ers. Outrageous. But yeah, Patty Mahomes ready for another season. Let's flip it over to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who Kansas City, they know who their starting quarterback is going to be. Maybe not so much for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson going to make his preseason debut, and the plan for him is to play 4 series with the offensive starters. Get your feet wet before you enter in the season. Still a quarterback tilt between him and Justin Fields. What are the expectations for this game coming up this weekend for you, Dubs, in a look at Russell Wilson?
They're not high. They're not high for Russell Wilson. I think the best years are well and truly in the rearview vision mirror, if you will. I think it's a similar story to the Patriots. For Mike Tomlin, let Russ go out there, let him cook through the first sort of third of the year here, and then it's all about Justin Fields. I mean, if you're trying to build something going into the future, it's not like Russ is just going to suddenly figure it out. It's not like he's going to pick up a step of quickness coming into a new year just because he's back there in Pittsburgh. He gets out of the pocket. He's a little sluggish. His play calling, it's a little slow for mine. So Russell Wilson, he's playing 4 series. I'd have him out there for 4 quarters, Donnie. He needs all the match reps he can get.
Yeah, banged up in the preseason, or should I say in training camp. We'll get a first look at him, but also Justin Fields waiting in the wings just in case Russ slips up. The Major League Baseball diamond, it was hot yesterday. Let's find out who did the most damage right here on the early line.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The fastest to 300, only 955 career games for Aaron Judge.
You're just worried about injuries. Let's just be honest. Very few comparative players to Judge's height, his weight, his body mass. Very few of those guys, Ben, are playing 17 years in such in Major League Baseball.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the early line. Happy Friday. Dubs Anderson, Donnie Rightside, getting you up to speed. All things happening out there on the diamond. The Phillies back up top of the National League. The Guardians paving the way in the AL. And Donnie, I'm out here on the West Coast, best coast. The Phillies overtake the Dodgers for that top spot. So let's talk about my Dodgers coming off a series there with the Brewers, and the Brewers right at the tables. They get the win there last night, 6-4. They dropped the first 2, win the next 2, and for the Dodgers and the Brewers, it is a split in Milwaukee.
Yeah, we could be getting a playoff preview here, Dubs, of these two baseball teams heading down the stretch, and also trying to find out if you have that edge. You take a look, as you talked about the Philadelphia Phillies, they've had a nice streak here against the Dodgers, the 2 series, winning 5 of 6 games. So anything that you can plant in your head as something positive when you see this team down the line, you're going to like that. And also, announced that Christian Yelich is not going to be back in the lineup for those Milwaukee Brewers. That's certainly not going to help them. And also, if you're fighting against the best pitcher right now on the Dodgers for me, who could be Jack Flaherty, you acquire him at the deadline. He goes 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, which wasn't bad. It's a quality start per se, but those are the games that you expect to win. So good for the Brewers on fighting back in this one. Myers was on the mound, who I didn't think was certainly in the same class as Flaherty, but he does go 5 2/3 innings pitched. He gave up 4 runs, but only 2 of those runs earned to keep them in the ball game. The one thing you want to look out for, too, is the Brewers do have a pretty solid bullpen, and that's Devin Williams on the back end. He got his 3rd save of the year, and you say, wow, only 3 saves. Well, he was injured for the better part of this season. That could be one of those hammers down the stretch. When you have a lead, that's the perfect guy to close the door. And for the Dodgers, you can't win every game. You're still on the road, but the problem is now you lose a game yesterday. The Padres and the Diamondbacks didn't play yesterday. So now that 2.5 game lead is now down to 2, and what a run it's going to be in the NL West. But I don't think anybody in Dodgerland is panicking at this point. 71-51, getting healthy. Mookie Betts back in the lineup. Yesterday he didn't start, but was a pinch hitter late in that ball game. They'll get it together. It's fine, but that's a pretty good playoff preview that we just saw from that series, Dubs.
It is a long season. Every team going through the highs and the lows, and Dave Roberts going to be very bullish on what he's seen there from the Dodgers. They're sitting at the shortest price at the FD Sportsbook, plus 300 to win it all, and the Brewers sitting at 23-1. Let's keep it with the National League, Donnie. Also in the West here, the Giants. San Francisco finally figured it out up there at Oracle last night. They blanked the Braves 6-0. The Giants get it done. A much-needed win here for the Giants after dropping the first 3 of this series. We highlighted a couple of standout performers earlier on the show there. Logan Webb, he fans 7. Max Fried, he gets the 5Ks to match there. And the Giants, they're in control from this one from the jump.
Yes, they were, and also handicapping this game yesterday right here on the early line. We told you that Logan Webb was the better pitcher on the mound. 7 2/3 innings pitched, no earned runs. That's how you need to break a losing streak. And also keep in mind, these two teams, Dubs, fighting for that final wild card position right now, so every game does matter. Imagine if the Atlanta Braves went out there and swept this series. Who knows what would leave the San Francisco Giants out there. So you have to get at least one. They got that yesterday. And if you can make it into the playoffs, we're talking about the Giants, a 1-2 punch of Logan Webb and Blake Snell is pretty darn good, and that's something they can look forward to. But in order to win that wild card round, you got to make it into the wild card round here. So salvaging that game, 62-62 now in the season for the Giants. And the Atlanta Braves, who were powering through with those bats, certainly got shut down yesterday, but rightfully so. Webb was a great pitcher, 11-8 on the season. Let me just take a look here what he improved that ERA to on this. 3.17, that's certainly doable. Max Fried on the other side drops to 7-7. He's been struggling as of late for the Atlanta Braves. The Braves still in command here of that final wild card spot, but a much-needed win for the San Francisco Giants here, no doubt about it.
A much-needed win indeed. From the West Coast, we head out east to New York. Your background there, Donnie, the Mets. I tell you what, this is a tough pill to swallow early on a Friday. If you're waking up and you missed this game last night, one of the longest games we've had since going to the pitch clock there, the Oakland A's get it done over the New York Mets 7-6. They still won.
Who would think that the A's were playing good baseball? You look at the record, 52-70. It was a disastrous start. And quite frankly, we were thinking the Oakland Athletics would be overall, Dubs, the worst team this Major League Baseball season. So anytime you see the Oakland Athletics on your roster, should I say on your schedule, you think you can pound and get away with an easy victory. And yesterday, it looks like you were going to get away with another easy one for the New York Mets. But how about this? 5-0 lead at the end of 3, quickly turns with 4 runs by the Oakland Athletics in the top of the 4th inning, and the overcoming that 6-run deficit, the 6 runs for the New York Mets. That's a big win, and we talked about it yesterday. This should have been a game that the Mets were able to secure. Rooker was not in the lineup out on paternity leave. It still didn't matter. They got 12 hits. The Oakland Athletics stay hot at the plate, and the New York Mets grasping for every single victory they can get to try to climb back in that wild card race and maybe overtake their division rival, the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, Donnie, what about the Orioles going against the Red Sox? Gunnar Henderson, 31st dinger of the year here. This one was a massive. Baltimore get the chocolates 5-1 over Boston. Could be very, very strong at home. Zach Eflin gets the win there, improves that ERA to a 3.72, 9.7 win-loss for the year.
Yeah, Zach Eflin, a guy that came over from the Tampa Bay Rays, the division rival of the Baltimore Orioles, to help them out. And he's been good. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run yesterday, an ERA now of 3.72 on the season. Nick Pivetta on the opposite side for the Boston Red Sox. 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, so a quality start, but it wasn't good enough. I think we could look at these two lineups, and they're both really good, but we sort of give the nod to the Baltimore Orioles at this point as the leaders right now if we're looking at that race in the AL East. You can't win every game, understandably. 2 previous Dubs, Philadelphia Phillies pitchers on the mound with Pivetta and Eflin. Eflin was the better pitcher. No surprise the Orioles were favored and at home, and they got the win.
Over in Detroit, the Tigers were playing host to the Mariners this week. Seattle up against it there. We had 3 games for the series. The Tigers pick up a win in each of those. 15-1. They start 3-2, 2-1 last night in another low scorer. The total was set at 8.5 for this one. Mariners ended up going off there as your favorites at -135, but just never got the offense going. So another good win there for the Tigers, sitting right around 500 at home for the year.
Sometimes the numbers can fool you. And yesterday I sat right on this network and said, okay, Faedo's on the mound. Now, he might open up. He's not a great pitcher. And Kenta Maeda coming in behind him, certainly not a great pitcher. This is one of those days where if you looked at that Mariners lineup, they projected well over the past 30 days, Dubs, against right-handed pitchers. They were atrocious yesterday. And the team total was 4.5 at a plus 106 price right here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. The thing that got me so upset is don't look at the final score, 2-1. Look at the one hit by the Seattle Mariners in this game. You weren't going up against the best pitcher. It wasn't Paul Skeens out there, followed by Zach Wheeler that was on the mound for the Detroit Tigers. You were looking at bad pitchers. And the fact that the first inning, all the walks, the loaded bases, Seattle actually scored without getting a base. Seattle said, you know what? We could have got 5 runs in the first inning. That's fine. They'll settle in. Second inning, third inning, fourth inning, fifth. Absolutely nothing here. This is what's so maddening, Dubs, taking a look at the Seattle Mariners, when if you think they can win that AL West, they give you games like this and series like this against the Detroit Tigers. You should have won that game. If you're looking at your pitching staff, it's not their fault. Miller was out there, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs. Wu was fantastic yesterday, and you're just not seeing the results at the plate, even though you did make some changes. I can't believe what's going on with the Seattle Mariners right now. Yesterday was maybe the most disappointing stance you can have for them if you want to take a look at them making a playoff run. I don't see it right now. This team stinks, Dubs, at the plate.
Sounding off on a Friday, Donnie, right side. We are not buying in from the struggles that we've seen there with the Mariners. 4-6 through the last 10 to sit second in the AL West behind the Astros, now 3 games back. Donnie, if we were to get out there in the mix, surely we're putting up at least 1 hit. Between us, give us 4 at-bats. We're coming up with 1 hit, aren't we?
I'm pretty sure against Faedo here, even in the first, Dubs, we could get up to the plate and just say, don't swing the bat at all. The guy is going to walk everybody like a merry-go-round, and we can score runs here. That would have been a better approach than what we saw out of the Mariners yesterday. But also, this isn't unexpected. We worried about the Mariners offense all season long. They got some bats at the deadline, looked like they were on their way up, and then we get this series with the Detroit Tigers. I can't figure out the Mariners. What a disappointing season so far for them, Dubs.
The push towards October baseball continues. We've got 14 games out there on the diamond this afternoon. We'll jump into those in just a bit. For now, we're hitting a quick commercial timeout. We'll see you on the other side. You're watching the SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The fastest to 300, only 955 career games for Aaron Judge.
You're just worried about injuries. Let's just be honest. Very few comparative players to Judge's height, his weight, his body mass. Very few of those guys, Ben, are playing 17 years and such in Major League Baseball.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Right back out of here on a Football Friday on the Sports Grid Network. Donnie right side here. Dubs Anderson will be back in here in just a few moments, but we are talking Major League Baseball. Yes, on a Football Friday. There is a lot going on. A full slate of Major League Baseball games tonight, Saturday, and Sunday, and a lot to determine who's actually going to make these wild card rounds here coming up at the end of September. And I say this too, and I mean this. There's money to be made here in the late months of August and September in Major League Baseball. I understand why we turn our focus over to the NFL and college football next weekend in week number 0, but this is fun, man. October baseball is awesome, but in order to get to October, you still got to make it through the half month here of August and all through September. Things are going to change a lot. Like if we're looking at the leaders here in Major League Baseball in these divisions, the American League. How about two teams with 72 wins right now, the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees? They're fighting for that division supremacy. The winner is going to get home field advantage. The loser is going to be in that wild card round. You take a look at the Guardians, a 4-game lead over the Minnesota Twins and a 6-game lead over the Kansas City Royals. Out there in the AL West, the Houston Astros, a 3-game lead now over the Mariners, when the Mariners looked like they were in full control of this division, now feeling like they're in free fall mode, and also looking at the Houston Astros winners of 8 of their past 10 games. The National League, the Philadelphia Phillies, resurrected once again, a 7-game lead over the Atlanta Braves, and the New York Mets, 9 games back now in the East. The Milwaukee Brewers have a 9-game lead over both the Reds and the Cardinals. Then the Dodgers out there in the contentious NL West. Dodgers, a 2-game lead over the Diamondbacks and the Padres. Dubsy, I was just telling the people out here, it's going to be wild over the final parts here of August and September, not only watching who's going to win the division, but who's going to wind up in those wild card spots.
There's a lot on the line, a couple of intriguing series coming up, especially in the National League there. A lot on the line. We've already seen a couple of new faces in new places. You highlighted my Dodgers, Donnie. I'm very bullish on where we sit right now, but taking a look at the wildcard spots there, the Diamondbacks, they've been playing some fantastic baseball. Obviously, they've got the pedigree, they've got the experience. The Padres have been fantastic over the last month. And then for the Braves, I know it's a strong series up there against the Giants. Didn't get it done last night, but they're still sitting as the third choice at minus 330. So the playoff push continues. In terms of the National League, Donnie, there's a couple of teams that stand up for mine, but in terms of the teams chasing on the outside looking in, the Mets, Giants, and the Reds, who's been the standout for you and who has the weapons, maybe the depth to take them?
You know what's interesting about the New York Mets, because we were writing them off, and we were led to believe under Steve Cohen that they were just going to buy themselves a World Series championship. All the money in the world, go out and pay players. It didn't work out in their favor. So they sort of torn it down, and the expectations dropped for the Mets, but the team camaraderie certainly didn't drop, and they're playing much better baseball. So there is a chance for me that the Mets, if they can hold it together, can make a climb. That's going to depend on what the Atlanta Braves do. So if we are looking at the wild card watch here, Dubs, in the National League and some of the price points associated with it, you take a look at the NL West first and foremost. You look at this. To make the playoffs for the Diamondbacks, they're a minus 2,200 price. This was a team that was floundering around through the months of April and May and the early parts of June. And we're saying, when is this team going to wake up? When are we going to see the team that made a run into the World Series last year, knocking off the Philadelphia Phillies? They're here now. You take a look at the San Diego Padres. They're a minus 3,000 price to make the playoffs here. This was a team last year that you were expecting big things out of, and the year previous where the Philadelphia Phillies had knocked them out on their way to a World Series. This team has gotten hot at the right time. Yeah, they lost Juan Soto. Oh, no, they're not going to be a good baseball team. There's a ton of talent left on that roster. And then you take a look at the Atlanta Braves, who I've been saying all along that they were always going to make the playoffs. It looked like they were even more of a shoo-in, let's just say a month and a half ago before they had that sort of downturn. But they're still a heavy favorite, Dubs, at a minus 330 price to get in. And then you're looking at the underdogs here right now. If we're looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook, the Mets, as I just talked about, with a chance to maybe beat the Atlanta Braves, Dubs, plus 360 price, the Giants at plus 680 price, and the Reds off the board currently at this point. So if we look at the top 3 teams, I do think those teams all make the playoffs. The Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Braves. The New York Mets, they got a little bit of work to do, but I don't think it's out of the realm that they can't make a run into it. And also, that San Francisco Giants point when we covered the game with them winning yesterday, they're 1-2 punch, Dubs. Fantastic if they can get into that wild card round.
And you look at the Mets, Donnie. I mean, they've got the Marlins coming up here this afternoon. In terms of strength of schedule, they have a decent little run towards October there. So they're going to have to make up a bit of ground, but certainly have the arms, I guess the offense. You could make the argument there as well. Jose Quintana, I believe he's getting the start later this afternoon. Severino's been strong. Guys like Minaya, they're probably going to have to step up. And that's the difference, Donnie, when we're trying to attack the teams that can make a significant push towards the playoffs. It's all about depth at this time of year. You've got to be finding that momentum. And no surprises, every ball club is going to go through their struggles. The Yankees have seen it. The Dodgers have seen it. And for the Mets, I'm still banking on that upside. And you still get a decent price.
Yeah, we'll see if they can climb back into it. As you point out, depth does matter here. You can't start your pitcher every single day down the stretch to pick up victories. Those third, fourth, and fifth starters really have to help you out here in the dog days of August. If we flip it over here on the wild card watch for the American League, Yankees and the Orioles, one of those teams is going to be in, one of those teams is going to be a wild card. That's why they're listed off the board right now. But how about this? Shout out the AL Central representing here with the Twins and the Royals. Look at the price points here. The Twins, minus 1,300. The Royals at a minus 144. But you do have some teams creeping around, which includes the very talented Boston Red Sox at a plus 188 price. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year and you told me the Guardians, the Twins, and the Royals would all make the playoffs, I would have thought, Dubs, you were crazy.
Who's the buy low spot, Donnie, in terms of the American League? We've gone through the highs, the lows. I love what I'm seeing. Now, the Orioles, the Guardians obviously have been playing some fantastic baseball. And the Yankees, well, it looks like they have figured it out over the last couple of weeks.
The one team I do have an eye out for, and I've liked them and bet them a lot, particularly with RBI props here, Dubs, let's just say over the past 30 to 45 days, it's the Boston Red Sox. They weren't supposed to do a lot, and quite frankly, many people picked them to become dead last in the AL East for this season. And that's very unlike the Boston Red Sox because typically they'll have a big payroll, superstar after superstar, challenge for World Series championships, and now they weren't supposed to do that this year. So when I look at that roster and say some of these young guys, in particular those left-handed batters surrounded by Rafael Devers, they have done really well. That's one of those teams I want to keep an eye on down the stretch, but I think we can probably, become in agreements here. Yankees, Twins, Royals, Red Sox, those are the four teams you want to watch out, obviously, in that wild card race, and we'll see how it turns out here. Now, getting into the wild card, yeah, that's great. If you win, you make it to the League Championship Series rounds and the divisional rounds, and then the World Series. Let's talk World Series prices right now on a Friday right here on the Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The fastest to 300, only 955 career games for Aaron Judge.
You're just worried about injuries. Let's just be honest. Very few comparative players to Judge's height, his weight, his body mass. Very few of those guys, Ben, are playing 17 years in such in Major League Baseball.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Final segment of hour number one right here on the Early Line, Sirius XM channel 159, right here on the Sports Grid Network. Dubs, Anderson, Donnie, right side, bringing that heat. And yes, we have a lot more topics to get to in hour number two, but let's put the cherry on top of the Major League Baseball season so far. That's World Series championship odds here, Dubsy. And if we look at the leaderboard right now, should I say the odds market at the FanDuel Sportsbook, you're still looking at the same teams we've been looking at for the past months here. It's two National League teams to start it off. The Dodgers at a 3-1 price, the Philadelphia Phillies at a plus 500 price. Then we get to the two stalwarts in the American League. That's the New York Yankees at a plus 550 price and the Baltimore Orioles at a 7-1 price. Before we get to the other teams, I always like to ask this question because the odds really haven't changed all that much in the leaderboard standings here. Do you agree, Dubsy, that the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have been and continue to be the favorites here at the FanDuel Sportsbook to win the World Series?
Yes, I do, and I agree that Jack Flaherty coming across is a great addition here for Dave Roberts and the Dodgers. They've gone through their own struggles, but you highlighted, Donnie, if you jumped in to play the futures markets as a baseball bettor, why would you have jumped in pre-season to take the Dodgers at plus 360? We can now get them at plus 300. We wanted to see that all the things would fall in line. We wanted to see that our big fella, Showtime Ohtani, would show up and be that superstar after surgery, and he is every bit as advertised. Yamamoto, there's whispers that he could be getting closer to a return. We need Walker Buehler to step up and be that guy. So there's now a bit more depth. There's no questions against that lineup. Mookie Betts is back in the mix here. So this is the time of year where you want to build that momentum. I like the price. I like the number. I've now seen enough. And for the Dodgers at plus 300 compared to where they were in the preseason World Series futures, I like this spot. I was big on the Phillies. If you asked me this question a couple of weeks ago, Donnie, I was all in on Philadelphia. This was the best team in baseball, but suddenly they're on the skids. The Yankees are on the up, and the Orioles are sitting there saying, hey, don't worry about us. But yes, I agree with the odds makers. I think the Dodgers certainly have the class, and we put the intangibles, that little X factor going towards a World Series. I think they are the team to beat.
How crazy a baseball season is, too, because before the All-Star break, you saw the Dodgers show up in Philadelphia and get hammered in that 3-game stretch. You're like, oh, there we go. That's decided. The Phillies have like a 6-game lead over the Dodgers for that number one seed, and here we are talking about them today, neck and neck at this point, even though the Phillies have won 5 of 6 games over the Dodgers. So the Phillies are a 5-1 price, and we do probably agree. The Dodgers and the Phillies, the two top teams in the National League, if we were to set up the playoff structure, they probably would meet in the NLCS. Flipping it over here to the American League, it's the Yankees and the Orioles, plus 550 and a 7-1 price here for the Orioles, respectively. Now, these two teams are going to jockey for position. They're tied right now in the standings in their own division. And boy, if you can win that division, the fruits of the labor, you have home field advantage. The other team has to go into the wild card round to make it a little bit more difficult. So if we're looking at the American League with those two top teams, Yankees and Orioles, who gets the nod for you, Dubsy? Because for me, I'm still riding with the Yankees. Do you think it's the Orioles or the Yankees as well here in the American League? Excuse me.
I'm still wrong with the Yankees there as well, Donnie, but it's not so much of what I have seen. It's what I expect to see going towards the next couple of weeks here. I do think they're starting to find their stride. I love Hill. I know it's been a bit of a mixed bag for the rookie, but I think he could be that guy coming in for the Yankees as they look for that depth. You've got the likes of Carlos Rodon, Nasty Nestor, I should say there. So for the arms, they've got to be a bit more consistent. The offense looks to be finding stride, and they probably need Giancarlo Stanton to be the Giancarlo Stanton that we're used to seeing. We all know Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, a couple of superstars in the mix there, but they're going to need third, fourth, maybe Rice could be the guy up top there as well. So I'm all in on the Yankees coming out of the American League, but certainly looks to be very competitive up top of the table.
No, it certainly is. And look at that. The top 4 teams, Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, Orioles. You know who's right behind them? The Houston Astros. You can't get rid of this team. I put a fork in them 15 times this season. Here they are, leaders of the AL West, and a 10-1 price, which means a legitimate chance. The odds makers think that they can actually win another World Series. The Guardians at a 15-1 price. The Braves at 15-1. The Twins at 17-1, followed by the Padres and the Diamondbacks out there in the NL West. If we remove the top 4 teams and go with just the Astros, Guardians, Braves, Twins, Padres, and Diamondbacks, I would have to believe myself. I still think it might be the Padres or the Diamondbacks that can climb this ladder here, Dubsy.
Yeah, and there's so much recency bias. The Astros have now rattled off, I think it's 8 straight on the bounce there. So arguably the hottest team in baseball. And Donnie, you write them off and they just show you that they've got that dog in them. They've got that experience, that X factor. They know how to grit out a couple of wins. And this is the time of year where you want to be finding top stride there. So Framber Valdez leading the way for the Stros. Couple of questions on the injury side of things. If you want to win a World Series, you need good fortune. You need a bit of luck. Right now, the Astros have got the momentum. They need a bit more depth coming in for October.
And playing your best baseball down the stretch means a lot. Momentum, people. We got momentum into hour number 2 next. Goff? Anybody want Goff? We got it.